I never expected a day at the beach to turn into a chemical nightmare. The sun was blazing, the waves were sparkling, and I was ready to relax, until she appeared. Karen. The type of person who seems normal from afar. But the moment she's around, chaos follows. She was in her mid-40s, oversized sunglasses, a neon swimsuit, and that signature tight bun that screamed, "I mean business." And business she had. The kind nobody would ever want. It started innocuously. I was carefully applying my sunscreen, the new SPF 50 formula I'd bought specifically for this trip. It smelled like coconut and vacation vibes, harmless enough. Then Karen appeared, loudly complaining about the inconsiderate sunblock smell near her towel. At first I tried to ignore her. I'm not one for confrontation. But when she grabbed the sunscreen bottle while I turned to set down my beach bag, my stomach sank. Something about her grip felt off. I shrugged it off as paranoia until a sharp burning sensation hit my hands. At first, I thought maybe the sun was reflecting off the sand, but no, it was chemical. My skin tingled, then stung, and I realized with horror, Karen had spiked my sunscreen with something acidic. My heart pounded. Around us, families laughed and splashed in the surf, oblivious to the danger unfolding mere feet away. Panic set in as I scanned for help. I yelled at Karen, asking what she'd done. She smirked and said, "Just teaching you a lesson about sunscreen etiquette." Lesson? I barely had time to react. My hands were burning, and I knew I couldn't handle this alone. By the time I made it to the lifeguard stand, my arms were red and blistered. The lifeguard's eyes widened when I explained what happened. He immediately called the authorities, and within minutes, a team in hazmat suits arrived on the beach. They cordoned off the area, guiding sunbathers to a safe distance while I explained every detail. Karen protested loudly, claiming it was a misunderstanding, but her defiance only confirmed my worst fears. As the state decontamination team began their work, the reality of the situation hit me. I had narrowly escaped a chemical assault, and this Karen wasn't going to get away unscathed. And the worst part? She didn't even seem remorseful. The beach had turned into a full-blown chaos scene, sirens in the background, people evacuating, and me, standing there trying to comprehend what had just happened. One thing was certain. This story was far from over. The decontamination team moved with precise urgency. Clad in white suits, gas masks, and rubber gloves, they treated the situation as if the entire beach could become a hazardous zone in seconds. I watched in disbelief as they set up portable showers, containment units, and chemical detectors. Karen, meanwhile, was still flailing, protesting, and filming everything on her phone as if this was some social media performance. "Step back, ma'am," one officer warned. "This is a hazardous chemical incident. You're not allowed near the contaminated area." Karen huffed dramatically, crossing her arms like a child being denied candy. She screamed something about overreaction and my rights, but the officers didn't even flinch. I realized just how out of control things had gotten. As the team approached me, they carefully wiped my arms with neutralizing solution and instructed me to strip off my clothes and place them in sealed bags. The burning sensation was fading, but the stinging reminder of Karen's cruelty lingered. Nearby sunbathers whispered in shock. Some filmed the unfolding scene. Others muttered about calling lawyers or suing. I just wanted to survive the experience without ending up permanently scarred. Meanwhile, Karen was making the situation worse. She had pulled out a megaphone from her beach bag. Yes, a megaphone. And started shouting at everyone. "This is harassment! I didn't do anything wrong. These people are lying!" Her voice was piercing, but the officers ignored her. Every word out of her mouth made it clear. She thrived on chaos, the kind that put others at risk while she played victim. I felt a strange mix of fear and anger as I watched her antics. How could someone be so reckless, so unhinged, yet completely unapologetic? One officer finally approached her, instructing her to submit to chemical testing. Karen refused and argued, but the team was ready. Within minutes, they had her escorted to a quarantine tent for analysis. From the outside, she still shouted and gestured wildly. The absurdity of the scene didn't make it any less terrifying. After I was fully decontaminated and wrapped in a clean towel, I sat on a bench near the edge of the cordoned area, exhausted. My friends were still recovering from the shock, and the beach that had been a haven earlier in the day now looked like a disaster zone. Emergency vehicles were parked along the boardwalk, curious onlookers peering from a safe distance. One thing was painfully clear. Karen hadn't just ruined a day at the beach. She had triggered a full-scale state response, endangered dozens of people, and guaranteed that her reputation or infamy would follow her far beyond this coastline. And somehow, I knew this wouldn't be the last we heard from her. After Karen was quarantined, the beach slowly began to return to normal, but the tension lingered like a shadow. Lifeguards and emergency personnel were still on high alert, speaking in hushed tones about the severity of the incident. I sat with the decontamination team, answering questions, describing the sequence of events, and watching them log every detail meticulously. This wasn't just a random act of madness. It was a potential criminal offense. The lead officer, a stern woman with sharp eyes, asked me to recount exactly how I discovered the contamination. I explained how Karen had handled my sunscreen, the instant burning sensation, and the smell that hinted at a corrosive chemical. As I spoke, she nodded and made notes on her tablet, occasionally glancing at photographs the team had taken of the scene. Every detail mattered. They treated this as a serious chemical assault. Meanwhile, Karen was still raging inside her quarantine tent. From the outside, we could hear her shouting, demanding to speak to lawyers, and accusing everyone of fabricating the story. Her smartphone was pressed against the tent walls, presumably live streaming the chaos. The lead officer explained that once the chemical analysis was complete, they could determine exactly what she had put in the sunscreen. If it was confirmed to be corrosive or dangerous, Karen could face serious charges, including assault with a chemical weapon. While the investigation unfolded, I couldn't help but reflect on how quickly a normal beach day had spiraled into a public health incident. Families had been evacuated, a specialized state team had been dispatched, and an unstable individual had threatened the safety of everyone around. It was surreal. And yet, amidst the chaos, I realized something important. Staying calm, documenting everything, and cooperating with authorities had likely prevented things from getting even worse. Hours later, the forensic chemists emerged from the containment area, carrying sealed samples of my sunscreen and Karen's belongings. The lead officer confirmed that preliminary tests indicated traces of a strong acid, likely capable of causing chemical burns. My stomach dropped. The realization that I had narrowly avoided serious injury made my hands tremble slightly. Karen's smirk earlier had been chilling, but now her actions were backed by tangible evidence. The state team began compiling a full report, detailing every step of the decontamination process, the chemical, testing, and witness statements. News crews arrived, cameras rolling, capturing the chaos for broadcasts and online coverage. Karen's name was already circulating on social media, labeled Beach Karen, by people horrified by the audacity of her actions. One officer approached me and said quietly but firmly, "You did the right thing by acting quickly. This could have been much worse." I nodded, still in shock, realizing just how close I had come to disaster. But even as relief washed over me, a gnawing question remained. What would Karen do next? By late afternoon, the beach had calmed, but Karen's presence hadn't disappeared. It had simply moved online. Within minutes, people on social media were buzzing about the Beach Acid Karen incident. Videos from bystanders went viral, showing the hazmat team in action, families evacuating, and my own near miss with the tainted sunscreen. Comments ranged from shocked disbelief to outright outrage. Karen had gone from a local nuisance to an internet sensation for all the wrong reasons. Meanwhile, I received a notification. Karen had posted a video from inside her quarantine tent. She was dramatically gesturing at the camera, claiming she had been wronged and that the authorities were harassing her. The caption read, "They tried to ruin my day at the beach. Innocent Karen, beach drama." Watching her speak, it was painfully clear she still didn't understand the severity of her actions. She wasn't just defiant, she was delusional, painting herself as the victim of her own chemical assault. Authorities were monitoring her online activity carefully. The state police warned me that anything she posted could be used as evidence in her upcoming criminal proceedings. Karen's insistence on broadcasting her meltdown made the investigation even easier. They could document her intent and her lack of remorse. Every outburst, every exaggerated gesture, every defiant shout into her camera reinforced the reality. She had knowingly endangered people and didn't care. As the sun began to set, I decided to take a quiet walk along the beach, reflecting on how quickly things had escalated. Families returned cautiously, some hesitant to sit near where the incident had occurred. The decontamination team packed up their equipment, leaving a faint chemical scent behind as a reminder of what had happened. The scene felt surreal, almost cinematic. Chaos, fear, and absurdity all rolled into one scorching day. News crews were still on site, interviewing witnesses and filming reenactments. Some of my friends urged me not to participate, but I knew it was important to set the record straight. I explained calmly what had happened, emphasizing how quickly I had reacted and the steps the authorities had taken to contain the threat. The camera crew nodded, clearly impressed by my level-headedness in the middle of what could have been a life-threatening situation. By nightfall, the beach was almost empty. The only signs of the day's chaos were the empty hazmat tents and the distant sirens fading into the evening. But Karen's influence lingered like a toxic cloud online. I realized that even though the immediate danger was over, the story was far from finished. This was no ordinary beach encounter. It was a cautionary tale of entitlement, recklessness, and the strange modern power of viral chaos. The next morning, the state investigation team returned with final results from the chemical analysis. Karen's actions had been confirmed. The sunscreen had indeed been contaminated with a strong acid capable of causing serious burns. The authorities were clear. This was not a minor prank or a misunderstanding. Karen now faced multiple charges, including assault with a chemical agent, reckless endangerment, and public endangerment. The reality of the legal consequences finally seemed to pierce through her defiant facade. I attended the official briefing with the authorities, along with a few other witnesses. Each detail was documented. From the moment Karen grabbed the sunscreen to the state decontamination team's intervention, seeing the systematic, thorough investigation gave me a sense of relief. It wasn't just about proving she had done something wrong. It was about accountability. Every careless action, every malicious intent had been logged and verified. Karen naturally tried to argue her way out. She claimed she had only tested sunscreen effectiveness and accused the officers of overreacting. But this time, no one listened. The evidence was overwhelming. Chemical tests, eyewitness accounts, video footage, and her own live-streamed meltdown. The authorities had built a strong case that left little room for denial. The local news ran stories all day, and social media buzzed with updates about Beach Karen. While some viewers were amused by the absurdity of the situation, most were horrified at how far she had taken her entitlement and recklessness. Many people reached out to share their own encounters with similar Karen behavior, highlighting a growing trend of individuals who weaponize pettiness and entitlement in increasingly dangerous ways. As for me, the experience left me both shaken and oddly empowered. I had faced an unexpected threat, acted quickly, and helped ensure that justice would be served. The incident reminded me that calm thinking, vigilance, and documentation are vital in emergencies, especially when dealing with unpredictable people. I also realized that some lessons are learned the hard way. The next time someone tries to play with chemicals or push boundaries, there is no room for hesitation. Weeks later, Karen's legal proceedings began. She would face serious penalties, and the beach had implemented new safety measures to prevent such incidents in the future. I returned to the water cautiously, sunscreen in hand, but this time I felt a sense of closure. The chaos, the sirens, the fear, it was over. Karen's antics could no longer touch me or the people around me. The sun reflected off the waves, calm once again, as I thought about the strange, terrifying day that had turned into a viral story. Some people ruin beaches. Some people ruin sunscreen. And some people bring an entire state decontamination team to a sunny afternoon. But the lesson was clear. Vigilance, courage, and evidence can triumph, even over the most absurd and dangerous chaos. If you felt the heat of this story, hit like, because real victories start when we stand together. Subscribe to Karen's Story Hub to follow every jaw-dropping moment from my Karen files. And tell me below, how would you handle a Karen trying to control your life?